All right, welcome to the Dales Report. I'm happy to be joined with the CEO of NeonMind, Rob Tessarolo, back to the show. Rob, how are things?
Good, Chad. How are you today? I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me back in, and things are going well.
Yeah, how's the summer been?
Summer's been great. I live in Ontario, in Oakville, in Ontario, Canada, and yeah, we've had some of the best weather on record as far as I can remember.
Well, that's exciting. A little bit slower for the industry, but looks like we're gearing up quickly for a Q4, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that there's some there may be some things that come down the pike in the fourth quarter, and that may have may shake up the industry to a certain extent.
Yeah.
For ourselves, we're looking to finish the year strong. We've got some exciting events that we expect to have happen by the end of the year. We've made some recent announcements about that to support us in our execution to get there.
Yeah.
And so we're looking to close out 2021 strong.
I know. Well, that's what the trend seems to be with a lot of companies that I'm speaking with right now, is that Q4, we love the summer, we love the weather. However, at the same time, too, people are excited to see the final 3-4 months as to how this industry grows. But you specifically, let's get an update as to how things have been progressing over the summer as we prepare for what appears, as I said, for a big growth in Q4. For NeonMind, there's been a nice pickup in news activity since we last spoke, as you outlined. The headline event is the creation of a drug development plan for compound NEO-001, which is your lead drug candidate targeting obesity. So as I reviewed this, the plan includes a regulatory strategy to target indication and product profile. So walk me through the significance of all this and how this could be like a precursor to a pre-IND meeting with the FDA.
Yeah, sure. And I think the last couple of times we've been on together, I mentioned that we thought it was very important. NeonMind Biosciences thought it was very important for us to have a very clear and efficient plan on how to get from where we're at, where we were at the time with a great research idea for a psychedelic in the obesity realm, and how do we go from where we're at right through to an NDA submission with the FDA or an NDS for a submission in Health Canada, because we ultimately believe that we can be the first company to bring forward an FDA or regulatory approved psychedelic modality for the treatment of obesity. And so we spent a number of months earlier this year really having significant expert advice and rounding out what we think is a very efficient and clear plan on how we can advance our programs in the obesity realm. For us, that's going to mean getting to the FDA for consultation, getting to Health Canada for consultation later this year, and sharing with them what our plan is, and having them endorse what our plan is for investigating psilocybin high dose for chronic weight management for obese patients. We think this is very exciting, and with some positive feedback from the FDA, we could be very early in 2022 up and running with a first in human study looking at psilocybin in obese patients for chronic weight management.
That's big, real big. What's some of the feedback? Is the FDA, is they starting to evolve as far as like accepting, because we've talked about this in the past with your long extensive background in pharma, but their overall consensus and perception of the industry as a whole. And as you said, there's a lot of stuff that they're open to hearing, but how are they progressing as well as dealing with on a day-to-day basis when you're in contact with them?
Well, for us, one of the things we recently announced was a bit of a reorganization, and it's essential that what we're having at NeonMind Biosciences, are individuals and regulatory experts, individuals and biotech professionals that have extensive regulatory experience, because these are high stake interactions, right? I mean, you need to put your best foot forward. You need to make sure that you understand the guidances that they've put out in the past and how any guidances are evolving, so that when you're in front of the FDA or you're seeking consultation, that you're prepared and that you have a good understanding of what's going to be expected. We think we've done that, and we're excited for a consultative event later this year.
Well, I think that's the strong thing about the industry, is that the people with backgrounds that have dealt with the FDA, why are they making this shift into alternative medicines with this industry? So let's talk about some of those, how you announced, basically on the unveilment of the drug development plan. You announced a strategic reorganization to focus on the execution of the plan. That includes the establishment, of a research and development advisory board led by Philippe Martin, who was appointed chairman. So what exactly do you expect this reorganization to achieve specifically as it relates to NEO-001 to clinical trials?
Yeah, so initially it will be focused on NEO-001, as you've mentioned, but ultimately we do have another program, NEO-002, which is more of a low dose compound. But and again, I think you'll probably pick up me saying very similar things that all linked together over and over again. And for us, it's all about execution, right? You know, we're a company that did an IPO earlier this year, so we have, you know, we're a new public issuer. For us, it's about how do we advance our research idea and how do we create value for our investors. And sure, I understand that's what everybody wants to do. And in our view of how to do that is to be very clear and concise in terms of how you're going to execute. How can you rapidly but responsibly get through the regulatory events that are required for commercialization of any substance? And how do you execute that plan in a reliable way where you're going to churn through the various milestones? So that meant for us having a more singular focus on the execution of our integrated drug development plan. We spent time authoring it. We brought a lot of experts together, and then we realized that what we need to have is a singular heartbeat that says, you know, how are we going to get in front of the FDA? What do we have to put in front of them? How are we going to stand up the trial? How do we be efficient and effective when we get positive feedback and we're raring to go? Because we don't want to be here 18 months from now still trying to figure out which CRO we want to use, right? We wanted to make sure we've got a very clear plan, and that meant bringing experts together that we have a lot of confidence in, a lot of experience in. And Philippe Martin's someone that I had a good chance to work with in a previous career when I was at Celgene in the United States. Philippe's got expertise across a variety of therapeutic categories. He's very well versed in the regulatory process and program advancing different programs and program development.
You're right.
He's currently, you know, chief of our head of R&D for a oncology company out in San Diego. So I know that Philippe has got a really good understanding of what's required to get through the FDA process and the rigors that are required. And, you know, lots of contacts in terms of experts, you know, we may need to infill and surround ourselves with as we look to move through these important regulatory events. You know, a positive pre-IND meeting with the FDA is, you know, a material event for a company like us, and that's what we're looking forward to. And likewise, we're already working on the clinical ops plan and how do you stand up a trial that ultimately gets endorsed. You know, we've done a lot of work on what our phase 1 and phase 1/2 study will look like if the FDA allows us to move forward with that. And again, we're looking for to qualify our vendors and our sites and our drug supply and ensure that, you know, when we're allowed to go, we can go and go efficiently and effectively.
It's a great way to explain things. Appreciate that. Let's switch our attention now to neuroplasticity. Many investors may not be aware that aside from promoting neuroplasticity, which is thought to be promote mindfulness, is a psilocybin-assisted therapy. As you're probably aware, psilocybin acts on the 5-HT2C receptors, which are connected to hunger impulses in the brain. So as I bring all this up, which type of research or what type of research do you think are you seeing that leads you to believe psilocybin could potentially control cravings related to appetite?
Right. So two things. So our two products are NEO-001. Our two programs are NEO-001 and 002. And so the neuroplasticity, the mindfulness, the reset in the brain of the default mode network, so to speak, is what we'll be targeting with NEO-001, which will be a higher dose psilocybin with some supportive and wraparound psychotherapy. That'll be our lead program. Our supplemental program, or our program that'll be a bit more laggard, will be the 002 program. And there we contemplate a low dose psilocybin. So a dose that doesn't in fact hit the 5-HT2A receptors and produce any hallucinogenic experience or hallucinogenic effects.
Right. The
5-HT2C receptors have indeed been shown to have some appetite suppression and drive some satiety and have some anoretic effect when in fact induced or affected. The 2C receptors were the target of previous drugs that were approved by the FDA. And so for us, that's a program that we're very interested in. Now, you know, one of the things that we want to be transparent and cautious about is when you think about the psychedelic modalities that are being described in several other indications and how we're going to look at it for obesity or chronic weight management and obesity with a higher dose, that's a singular dose or a couple of doses separated by a few weeks, and you see this durable effect. On the other hand, if you're talking about a lower dose, it's a dose you're going to have to give on a regular basis, maybe daily.
Yep.
And that brings you into chronic administration of a substance. And chronic administration of a substance has a whole other level of data and safety characterization that's required. And so those trials take a lot longer to do, long-term tox studies, long-term CV studies, when you're administering a substance chronically. So for us, it's a laggard program. It's an exciting program.
Right.
And it would run in, excuse me, it could be a complementary program long-term to the higher dose modalities.
Why don't you think more companies in this space have focused on obesity? Because it is basically a neurological concern, to say the least. And I think as we learn more about this industry, I think it's going to really educate a lot of people specifically to this, will it not?
Yeah, we believe that it will. I mean, I think you aptly point out that, our NeonMind Bioscience is quite unique in terms of the indication that we're seeking, that we are pursuing. And it comes down to a couple of things. I think one, we had a tremendous research idea, which we scribed some intellectual property applications around. It's a great idea that really was born out of here at our organization and some think tank efforts that happened that actually predate me coming to the company. But it's a very interesting research idea. And when you think about it logically, and you think about the various pathways that are implicated and that affect people who have who suffer with obesity or struggle with obesity, it makes sense that some of these modalities, these psychedelic effects that we're seeing reported in other indications, may have a positive effect. Those other indications, the psychiatric indications, as we refer to them, whether it's ADHD or major depressive disorder, PTSD, treatment-resistant depression, et cetera, they're tremendously important indications. And that's where a lot of the early data and the early effect was being seen with these substances. And so, we look at this and say that we believe psychedelic substances can have significant power to heal. It's important for companies, it's important for any company. For us, it's about characterizing safety and efficacy in the target patient population. I think it's important for investors to understand and recognize and realize that this is not a one size fits all type of application.
Of course not. Yeah.
Companies need to go to the FDA with population specific data that characterizes safety and efficacy, and need to have a plan of how to actually demonstrate that. There's no legalization event here that we're doubling down on. We believe that the pursuit of science through rigorous, randomized controlled trials with our ideas and our ideas stated, ahead of time and evaluated is the best way and the only way to really have these substances, hit the market with a great amount of emphasis and support behind them.
It's crazy how much this industry's just advanced in the last 12 months, isn't it?
No, it really is. It's I'm duly impressed. I think it comes down to an old saying is you have to follow the science in the biotech industry, and when the science is positive and you open up your trial, you open up the cards for your trial, and things are positive, capital flows in, and you need to pursue those ideas. And I think that's what we're seeing right now in this sector. Yeah.
Well, I had it written down. My last question was about Dr. Parikh. You've actually outlined him. Just a rich background in your pharma industry. He works at the University of Michigan. Just talk more about, I know he works with a lot of regulators, the FDA, so we get an idea as to how he's going to advance the research. But maybe if you want to touch on one more thing specifically as to how he's going to shape the overall future of your research side of your company, and most importantly, move it forward.
Yeah, and I think the important thing with Dr. Parikh, and I've known him for just over 20 years. Early on in my pharmaceutical career here in Canada, he was still working in Canada, and he was a member, might have been president at the time of the CNMED organization, and so got a lot of experience working with him in the mental health and mood disorder space. And he's just a tremendous person with a very with some experiences that very few people can offer and bring to the table. And one of the things that's important to Dr. Parikh is the delivery of innovative modalities and ensuring that and finding ways to ensure that healthcare is effectively and efficiently delivered. And so for us, when we thought about standing up the first or bringing on the first member of our advisory board for our specialty clinics business segment, we look no further than Dr. Parikh, because we think he can help. He can help us determine what the best modalities are, what the best approaches are at the local level. We've announced a business strategy to be in the delivery business for these psychedelic modalities longer term. And today that means we can deliver innovative evidence-backed medicines,
Right.
IV ketamine, transcranial magnetic stimulation, S-ketamine, ketamine, oral ketamine with psychotherapy. Today we can deliver those. Those are approved in modalities. And with Sagar on board, we're going to be able to have a good working plan on how to get those clinics stood up and have branded NeonMind clinics available and across the country.
That's great. It seemed like it's just amazing when you start to see what the overall landscape and complexion of this industry will look like in 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. And look how fast it's moved. Like, people actually thought this is something related to mental health 2-3 years ago, and look where we are today. That people have fully embraced it. But as you said, clinics opening up across the country, it's incredible to see how this will overall look in the next couple of years. But listen, I know you're busy. I appreciate you checking in first thing here this morning. Let's keep in touch, enjoy the rest of your summer, and let's gear up for what appears to be an exciting Q4.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on it, and enjoy the rest of the summer, the month of August, as you say. And yeah, I think it's going to get tremendously busy in September, October.
I know. So we'll probably miss these days in probably 60 days, won't we, Rob?
Hold on to your hat.
Yeah, exactly. Have a great day. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.